when you present the idea, I used to be a Christian and now I'm not, and I'm examining the claims of Christians. So automatically I go, man, you're my friend. I've told you this offline, talk about it online. Somebody who is a Christian is somebody who has a relationship with Jesus Christ, who has made God the Lord of their reasoning. And so for you to now reason that he is not, you can't logically say that you used to be a Christian. Logically, all you can say is, I used to be deluded into thinking I was, and now I'm no longer, in your mind, deluded. I'm not a Christian. Does that?
Well, this tees up our whole conversation, because that means you and I are no longer defining Christianity the same way, right? And so it does make weirdly sense that it's your label to adopt, and so you should be able to define it. The trouble is, I talk to so many Christians, and everyone defines Christianity differently. So for me, Christianity, I believed I was a Christian, but right now I think if the definition of Christianity is someone in relationship with a risen Jesus, then I don't think anyone is a Christian, right? Because I think you are deluding yourself into that as well.
Agreed. But you would also have to say, if that is what a Christian is, you can only say you were deluded. You cannot say that you are a Christian, right?
That is, well, yes, that would be correct, that I was deluded. So I have thought about, it's a little wordy, it's not good for branding, but I have thought about using a former person who used the label of Christian, because that's what I did. I used the label of Christian. Right now, if anyone comes to me with the label of Christian, I now no longer know true Scotsman that, right? Like when I was a Christian, I would have said, like, a lot of Catholics I know aren't Christians, and definitely JWs aren't Christians, and even, you know, a lot of very liberal people, they say they're Christians, but I wouldn't have agreed. So on this side of the fence now, I just say, if you use the label, you use the label. So do you think, how would I best clarify myself in a way that would be palpable to someone like you? Would I say that I formerly used the label of Christian? Is that more palpable? Or
well, the question is, do you want to be consistent? I mean, if we're and again, we're going to literally be talking about two different worldviews here. We're going to be talking about a biblical worldview, and we're going to be talking about a non-biblical worldview. And I go, if you want to stand on the non-biblical worldview, you don't even have to be consistent. There's no reason. There's nothing holding you to consistency. Just like we're going to talk about morality, and there's nothing on this worldview, there's nothing holding you to morality. If we're standing on the biblical worldview, where we do want to be consistent and we do want to have truth, I go, yeah, it would make sense to borrow the Christian worldview and put it over here. It would make sense to be consistent. And the only way to be consistent is to claim, I used to be deluded into thinking I had a relationship with Christ. Now I know I do not, because I don't believe that he is the Savior or the Messiah or risen. And so I'm now no longer deluded. That's the only consistent way. And you can try to flower that up to make it more palatable, but that's the only consistent thing.
I feel like that may, if you heard someone say that, though, that's kind of insulting to Christianity. And I of course, just like you want to be welcoming to non-believers, or do you think that is a welcoming statement for me to say I was deluded?
I think it's a blessing. I mean, how many pastors have gone from preaching in the pulpit to now no longer preaching in the pulpit? And I go, wow, Paul, I'm thankful that you now know that you do not have a relationship with God. I'm thankful that you understand this truth, and God has given you more time so that you still can come to that knowledge.
Right. I've taken off my sheep's clothing, as it were. I'm no longer a wolf in sheep's clothing, and as the Bible used to talk about, I'm now just the wolf.
Well, that's a good way to put it. And even Matthew 7:21, the scariest verse in the Bible, many are going to come to me and say, didn't I do all these things? Yep. And he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. So exactly. I think there's many in the church that are deluded into thinking they are Christian. That's the way I was. I was raised in a Christian home. I mean, raised by two amazing parents that loved me, that loved God, that wanted the best for my life, that instilled a lot of truth in me. And I started questioning things at 18 years old and started going on this journey to know, is this actually true? Is what I'm being taught true? Is there another way that's true? And I go, if I would have died at 18, I don't think I would have been a believer. I didn't get saved until watching Hell's Best Kept Secret by Ray Comfort and realizing the modern gospel, come to Jesus because he wants to give you a good life, and the biblical gospel, man, we are all sinners who need a savior. I need saved from my bad works, and I need saved from my good works, because my good works are not good compared to the holiness of God. So it really, and again, I know we're trying to get to morality,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
that distinction, I guess, yeah, it's your show. We can go wherever we want, right?
Yep.
That distinction of I used to be a Christian, to me, that's the real slap in the face to real Christians, because you cannot say I used to be a Christian, because a Christian is somebody who has a relationship with Jesus Christ. So that, to me, the slap in the face, and I get it, it's good for branding. It sounds great. It might be more persuasive to people, if you will, to say, I used to be where you're at, and now I know better. It's kind of what it sounds like, because some people use the opposite. I used to be an atheist, and now I'm no longer an atheist. So I think there's
yeah, it works well for Lee Strobel and J. Warner Wallace.
Yeah, and so I don't know, if you make fun of them, maybe you ought to make fun of yourself too.
Oh, I'm all for that. So I'm all for that. And actually, yeah, and I'm not. I hope I'm not being. When presented with that, I'll take that on board. Absolutely. I was deluded then, and I think you are too. So yeah, so all good.